Greetings and welcome back to the channel. We're going to continue where we left off from the last video. We're doing a breakdown of the power and now. See how we can alleviate some of the mental suffering and all the negative thoughts, et cetera, et cetera. And this book gives some great techniques about how to do that. So we're just going to jump right in. Okay, starting off with the first key point we got here. The greater part of human pain is unnecessary. It is self-created as long as the unobserved mind runs your life. Okay, so that's a positive statement, meaning that it's unnecessary. That means that we can get rid of it. Okay, it's not something that we just born into and it's part of who we are. It's unnecessary, so we can get rid of it. It is self-created as long as the unobserved mind runs your life. And again, that's being in the past, that's being in the future, that's not really being aware of our thoughts, kind of just being on autopilot, which most people are when you're going to the school, you're going to work, you're waking up in the morning, you're kind of on autopilot and you're not really being aware of what you're doing and you're not being aware of what you're thinking. And when you're not aware, that's when the human pain begins to happen because a lot of the thoughts that we think are negative by default. All right, let's hit the next key point. The mind always seeks to deny the now and to escape from it. In other words, the more you identify with your mind, the more you suffer. And again, the now is going to bring you into the present moment, what's going on around you right now. Literally, if you're sitting down listening to this YouTube video, if you're watching a video, that's in the now. But if you're thinking about the bills, you're thinking about work, you're thinking about the promotion, the job, then your mind is somewhere in the future. Maybe you're thinking about something that happened to you yesterday, road rage, you're thinking about something in the past. So you're stuck in your head, you're stuck in these thoughts and the narrative going on in your head, and you're not in the present moment. And again, that can cause a lot of mental pain, which can turn into physical pain as well if it's not checked. So again, we're going to keep going through this book and see how we can alleviate some of that. Next point, the mind habitually denies or resists the now because it cannot function and remain in control without time, which is past and future. So it perceives the timeless now as threatening. And again, when he's talking about the mind, he's talking about the egoic mind or the egoic self. We don't want to be in a present moment, again, because something's more important in the future or something that happened to me in the past is more important. And thus the egoic mind does not want to let go of those two, the past or the future, because it does not exist in the present moment. Most of our suffering comes from worrying about the future or thinking about the past. A lot of times in the present moment, there's really nothing happening. There are times when things happen in the present moment, and Eckhart Tolle says deal with them as you should, but 99% of the time, there's not much happening in the present moment as far as us being attacked and experiencing suffering. A lot of it is narrative that we create in our head again, future and the past, and the egoic mind does not want to let go of it because it exists in the future and in the past. The present moment will bring you peace and calm and being centered and balanced. The egoic mind doesn't survive there. Thus, it doesn't want to be in the present moment. But that's the key to relieve the suffering. Okay, next key point. Yes, we need the mind as well as time to function in this world, but there comes a point where they take over our lives, and this is where dysfunction, pain, and sorrow set in. So again, there's nothing wrong with using thinking or thoughts and referencing the future or the past, but there's a point, like Eckhart said, where it comes to take over our mind and it causes suffering. So so of course we need thinking, we need to talk, we need to communicate, we need to say, hey, let's meet up at the grocery store at 9 a.m. tomorrow. That's using time and that's planning ahead, and that's fine. And when we start worrying and stressing over things in the future, that's when it's not okay. And we got to get a grip of that, okay? Let's keep going. Okay, the accumulation of time in the collective and individual human mind also holds a vast amount of residual pain from the past. And again, all of the stuff that happened to you in the past where somebody put their hands on you or mistreated you or just was mentally abusive, maybe verbally abusive to you or physically abusive to you, if it happened in the past and we're holding on to it, it's going to have a lot of pain and suffering in it. And the fact that we haven't let it go and we constantly think about it is going to have a collective amount of pain as well because it's constantly there. We haven't dealt with it. We haven't released the pain. So it's just a buildup of energy and negative energy that's part of our being, okay? And we want to let that go. Let's keep going. If you no longer want to create pain for yourself and others, if you no longer want to add to the residue of past pain that still lives on in you, then don't create any more time. or at least no more than is necessary to deal with the practical aspects of your life. Okay, and again, that's constantly ruminating in the past over negative things. And you're creating that in the present moment, but you're constantly thinking about something negative in the past or worrying about something in the future. Okay, now let's get to a few solutions of how to stop creating more time. Okay, it says, stop creating time by realizing deeply that the present moment is all you ever have. When you come to that realization that now is the only thing that's happening, you're sitting here or standing there listening to this video, that's all that's happening right now. There's nothing else going on. Even if you got to go to, work tomorrow, or if you got to do something next week that you're not looking forward to, it's in the future. So it really doesn't matter right now in this present moment. So when you can begin to remind yourself, okay, right now is the present moment. This is all that's happening. Right now is the present moment. This is all that's happening. This is all that's important right now. That way you start to pull yourself back from the future worry and the past regret. You can start being in the now. What am I doing right now? Even if you're washing dishes. Okay, I'm sitting here, I'm washing dishes. I'm taking this plate, running it on the water. I'm taking my washcloth, I'm rubbing the plate. Right there in that moment, nothing else is going on. And you can be in a present moment and find peace there just washing the dishes versus worrying about how am I going to pay the car payment, or is my great granddad going to get out of hospital? Is he going to make it out, et cetera, et cetera? Okay, be in the present moment. Make the now the primary focus of your life. And again, you washing dishes, just wash the dishes. If your mind wanders off to your granddaddy in the hospital or what your mom said to you when you was 5 years old, just bring your mind back to the present moment. Continue to wash the dishes. Oh, I caught myself. I'm thinking about my grandfather. I'm thinking about what happened in the past. Let me come back to this dish. And you have to come back to that as often as it takes. In the beginning, when you're doing that practice, your mind is going to wander 1,000 times more than likely, but you have to bring yourself back 1,000 times because that's the practice that keeps you in the present moment. And it gets easier over time. In the beginning, it may be a bit difficult or challenging, but over time, the practice becomes easy until it becomes second nature and then first nature. You won't wander off so much. And the key to bringing yourself back to the present moment is not to beat yourself up about when you're wandering off. When your mind does wander off, bring it back to whatever you're doing in the present moment and don't be upset and beat yourself up about wandering off. That's something that I did and still do sometimes, that when my mind wanders off, when I'm doing maybe a walking meditation or just sitting meditation and my mind wanders off, sometimes I tend to beat myself up because I thought about something else. But that really is defeating the purpose. It's not for you to beat yourself up. Meditation and being in the present moment brings you peace. But if your mind wanders, it's okay because it may be a new practice for you. You come back to center, beating yourself up is still the egoic mind judging yourself. Oh, I shouldn't have did this. I should have been more focused. I can't do it. That's that narrative again at play, and you have to recognize that voice as well. Okay, let's go to the next point. Whereas before you dealt in time and paid brief visits to the now, have your dwelling place in the now and pay brief visits to the past and future when required to deal with the practical aspects of your life situation. So, in other words, always remain in the present moment. And then when you need to speak about the future or when you need to speak about the past, do so then. But most people, we just stay in the future, stay in the past, and we spend very little time in the present moment. But what Eckhart's saying is reverse it. Stay in the present moment more. Only go in the future and the past when you need to. And that'll help out a great bit, relieve some of that suffering. It may not sound too profound or too deep or too big, but trust me, if you can do that, you'll alleviate a lot of the suffering. And again, it may be, it may take some time at first because you can get frustrated because your mind constantly wandering over and over and over the place. But just stick with it. It gets easier. Okay. It says, what if at times the present moment is unacceptable, unpleasant, or awful? Okay, this was a question in the book. What if at times the present moment is unacceptable, unpleasant, or awful? Eckhart answers, it is as it is. Observe how the mind labels it and how this labeling process, this continuous sitting in judgment, creates pain and unhappiness. So most of the time, something we're experiencing, like Eckhart says, it is as it is. we tend to put labels on things. We tend to make things negative. We tend to say this is horrible. And not only do we say it's horrible, we start adding to the narrative that's going on in our head. Oh, the bill is due next week. I don't have the money. So that may be the case. The bill may be due next week, and you may not have the money right now. But then the mind goes on and adds to the story where, okay, the lights gonna get cut off. The lights get cut off. What are my family gonna think? The neighbors gonna see that the lights not on. They're gonna judge me. How am I gonna get another job to get the, the mind starts adding to the one narrative that hasn't even happened yet. Next week hadn't come. The lights are still on right now, and so the mind just starts creating more and more pain. Okay, so we're labeling something a negative situation, and it hasn't even happened yet because not being able to pay the bill next week, is a terrible thing. But that's just the label we're putting on it. We're saying that it's terrible. Nothing has happened yet. So, it's one of those things. Another example is raining outside and it's cold. What a dreadful day. Yes, it's raining outside. Yes, it's cold, but the dreadful day part of it, there's something we added to it and that makes it negative. We don't have to add the dreadful aspect to the day. It is raining and it is cold. That does not make the day dreadful. It doesn't make the day gloomy or any of those things. That's just what we do because that's what we do by default. We've been taught those things through movies and television shows and through our upbringing that when it's raining outside, it's sad, it's depressing, can't go out and play, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we grow up with this narrative. But if you look at it from a different perspective, it's raining, yes. It's cold, yes. It doesn't make it dreadful. It is as it is, like Eckhart says. And we have to learn to change our perspective on these things because that's going to eliminate some of the suffering that we're creating. We're literally creating and saying it's a dreadful day when it doesn't have to be a dreadful day. It's something that we said, and we're doing it by programming because we're used to doing it, but that's the programming we have to change. We don't have to suffer through every single thing just because it's not how we want it. And that's what ends up happening. Because the sun might be shining, it's 80 degrees, not 70 degrees. Okay, we're saying it's hot and it's miserable out here, but it's not miserable. Is it hot? Yes, but that doesn't make the day miserable. Okay, let's keep going. By watching the mechanics of the mind, you step out of its resistant patterns and you can then allow the present moment to be. And again, that's just what we was talking about, being able to watch the mind, recognizing that, okay, it's raining outside, it's cold, man, this day sucks. And then you catch yourself and say, okay, I just labeled this day and said it sucks. I said it's dreadful. I'm not going to continue down that narrative. It's not dreadful. It doesn't suck. It's raining, yes. It's cold, yes. But that doesn't make the day bad. So by being watchful over your mind and the thoughts that come up, you'll be able to catch yourself when these things start happening and then put them in check, so to speak. And you'll stop them from happening in the future because you're more aware now. Let's keep going. It says, accept, then act. Whatever the present moment contains, accept it as if you had chosen it. What that's going to do is stop creating the resistance and the fight against it. Accept it as if you were chosen. It means just flow with it, go with it. Okay, it's raining outside. It is what it is. Nothing I can do about it. Let me go find something else to do. Maybe I'll sit inside, watch a movie, make some cocoa, the whole 9 yards. Yes, the plan was to go outside and go walking, go running, go exercising outside, run some errands. It's pouring down raining. There's literally nothing I can do about it. It's completely out of my control. So what I'm not going to do is suffer about it. Not going to create a negative narrative. Man, I can't go get these errands done. I needed to get them done, but it's pouring down rain and da 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 da. Okay. We're not going to fight with it. He says, accept it as if you had chosen it. Man, okay, it's raining outside. Fine. I'm gonna go inside and make some cocoa and watch Training Day or whatever the movie is you want to watch. Okay. I'm gonna go and watch. Let's pick a different movie. Little Monster, starring Fred Savage and Howie Mandel. Yeah, I like that movie. So we're gonna go inside. We're gonna make some cocoa. We're gonna watch Little Monsters. We're gonna have a good day. Okay. Nothing we can do about the rain. Always work with it, not against it. Again, it's raining out. Let me go find something to do that I can enjoy while it's raining out. And that's working with it, not against it. Because you could say the day sucks, I can't get what I need done, start calling your friends, complaining, crying, yeah, whatever. That ain't gonna stop the rain. So that ain't helping none. Make it your friend and ally, not your enemy. Again, same thing. This will miraculously transform your whole life. And remember now, when you're doing these things, in the beginning, it's going to feel fake, like you lying, this, that, and the third. But you'll start coming into the realization where you realize, I really can't do anything about the rain and the cold. Yeah, let me just have a better day. I don't want to go down that negative narrative anymore. I don't want to make the day bad for myself. And when you start practicing these things, you get better and better at them. And they don't feel like a practice anymore. They don't feel like it's being forced anymore. And a and a key here, don't force it. I mean, I understand that if it's raining and it's cold out and you had plans, you can't do them, you're gonna feel some kind of disappointment. But let's be mindful of the narrative that's building in our head and not let it get so negative, okay? And again, you do this over and over and over, you continue this practice, then life will get better for you. The frequency of rays, your vibrational rays, and then before you know it, the sun is shining every day, okay? Even if the sun isn't shining, you still have a positive, pleasant, productive day, and you're not having that mental suffering, okay? Let's keep going. As long as you are unable to access the power of the now, every emotional pain that you experience leaves behind a residue of pain that lives in you. So what he's saying here is that if you can't come back to center, come back to now in a present moment, all of that negative energy is just going to build up, and continue to build up because you don't know how to alleviate it or get rid of it. Or, yeah, you don't know how to get rid of it because it's just going to keep accumulating. You don't know how to come in the present moment. You don't know how to disidentify with it. So you got to be able to get into that present moment, okay? This accumulated pain is a negative energy field that occupies your body and mind, okay? Occupies your body and mind. Great negative thoughts, great that negative feeling. It's the emotional pain body. It has two modes of being, dormant and active. This emotional pain body is just when you have a lot of negative thoughts, you're feeling negative, so now you're going around with a negative vibe, negative vibration, okay? You always got an attitude when you go to work, you wake up on the wrong side of the bed, somebody cuts you off in traffic, you're going off, you don't have no patience. You go to McDonald's, they get your breakfast sandwich wrong, now you're upset. You know what I mean? So you just got a negative vibe for the day because you got all these negative thoughts going in your head, these negative emotions, but you're so unaware and identified with them, you don't even realize it. Okay. Again, it's the emotional body. It has two modes, dormant and active. Anything can trigger it, particularly if it resonates with pain pattern from your past. So if you're walking around and again, you already woke up on the wrong side of the bed, you go to McDonald's, you get your egg and cheese biscuits or whatever you want, and they don't put no cheese on there. Now you upset. Now you mad. You're going off at the people at the cash register. The girl is probably new, didn't know what she was doing, and you're going off of them because they didn't put the cheese on the sandwich. Okay, and you've been to McDonald's 3 or 4 times. They keep forgetting the cheese, and you're going off about it. Right? Anything can trigger it. So you don't want to be walking around like a ticking time bomb. But if you got all these negative thoughts going, you got all these negative emotions going, and you don't even realize it, that's what you're going to be, a ticking time bomb. So when the lady cuts you off on the road, or the guy cuts you off on the road, instantly trigger road rage. Now you're ready to run them off the road. You have no presence enough to be conscious to catch yourself before you react, right? And that's what we're looking to do. We're looking to be aware enough to be able to catch ourselves before we react. Doesn't mean that in the beginning of these practices that you will be able to do it all the time, every single time. But the more you do these practices, you come back to center, you come back to presence, you start growing in awareness, right? You'll be able to you in the beginning you'll feel the reaction coming on, but you'll be able to catch it before you actually have the reaction. Take a deep breath, come back to being, come back to presence, say, okay, I know I'm finna start tripping. Let me take a deep breath, ground yourself, come back to center, relax, and keep on moving without having a reaction. And again, if you practice that more and more and more, then that'll be second nature that it won't even bother you anymore because you'll realize they're reacting out of their egoic mind and out of their mental suffering and out of their pain body. So there's no reason for you to trigger them or to continue to trigger them because they're already triggered. You'll be in a place where nothing will be able to bother you. Okay. When it is ready to awaken from its dormant stage, even a thought or an innocent remark made by someone does by someone does to you can activate it. Okay, let me reread that. When it is ready to awaken from its dormant stage, even a thought or an innocent remark made by someone does to you can activate it. Um, that looked like it was typed up incorrectly. But yeah, so you'll just be triggered simply. Somebody may say something to you and it just trigger you. Hey man, those shoes, they don't really go with that outfit, and all of a sudden you mad. A simple remark, they don't go with that outfit. You upset, you angry, this, then, the third, and the person didn't even really do anything to you. You just triggered. So we want to get to the point again where that's not happening, and these practices will help you do that. Okay, it'll help you not be so triggered. It'll keep you in the present moment. It'll keep you from reacting so fast, so quickly, and you won't be reacting at all. But again, have to come back to center. Have to come back to awareness. We have to put that space between you and the thought and the feeling. Let's keep going. Okay, example. When you thought you knew a person and then you are suddenly confronted with this alien, nasty creature for the first time, you are in for quite a shock. And again, what he's saying is you may have a friend and y'all get along very well, but one day he woke up on the wrong side of the bed and now he's just a completely different person. That's his pain body activating. He's been triggered, something's going wrong, he's upset about something, and so he's acting differently. It's not that he's a different person. His pain body has been activated, and now that suffering is what you're experiencing. The suffering aspect of him is or her is who you're talking to. The egoic mind has been triggered. It's at forefront, and that's who you're communicating with. That person that's normally calm, nice, or whatever the case may be, they're still there. They just been triggered. So you got to understand that when it happens. And then this next point here is, however, it's more important to observe it in yourself than in someone else. And again, it's so easy for somebody that's triggered to trigger you because they may be yelling, calling you names, using profanity, and that's very that's very easy to trigger you and make you go off too. So that's why he says it's better to observe it in yourself because it's very easy once it gets going. It likes to be rampant. The next point: pain body wants to survive, just like every other entity in existence, and it can only survive if it gets you to unconsciously identify with it. Okay, so again, this suffering is going to go around and trigger others, and it needs something to identify with. It wants another person to identify with it, so it can go back and forth arguing, and it needs you to identify with it. Because if you don't identify with it, it can't go on living. So, in other words, if you're triggered and the reaction is coming and you react, you completely lost your mind. You identify, you're going off, you're cussing somebody out. The person cut you off on the road. Now you speed behind them and you want to hit them. You want to hit them on the side because they cut you off, right? Real road rage. So if you identify with it, you're gonna speed up and swerve on the person and try to run off the road, right? But if you can allow a little space, some consciousness, some awareness, right, you'll catch yourself and say, I'm tripping, I'm about to go off. And you've done it before. You caught yourself, hey, I'm about to go off on this person, man. Let me leave. That's actually consciousness and awareness coming into play because you know you're about to do something crazy. So let me catch myself and go on. That practice right there, you have to continue to practice that because that's how you alleviate all of the identification with the pain body and the reaction. Now, what happens is sometimes we'll catch ourselves in a moment. We won't react. We'll play it cool. And then later on, we'll suffer from it because now we're thinking about the past. Man, I should have went off on him. I gave him a pass. I shouldn't have gave him a pass. I should have did this, that, and third. No, you don't want to be patient, be in the present moment, when it happens and you're successful in not reacting. And then later on you start ruminating about it and say, I should have did this, should have did that. You're still suffering now. So you may as well react it in the moment if you're going to leave a situation and still be suffering on it. So that's something that can happen. I've experienced it before. Whereas I'm in a situation where I want to react, I really want to, but I check myself, I stay grounded, I stay present, and I'm good in the moment. And maybe 10, 20 minutes later, an hour later, I'm upset with myself and I'm mad at myself because I didn't go off. Man, I should have said this, I should have said that. I really wish I could have said this. They probably think I'm weak, this, that, and the third. And now you're still suffering. Even though you did something that took a lot of courage, so to speak. It took a lot of presence. But later on, now you beating yourself up about it. That egoic mind has stepped back in. Now you're going through mental suffering again, creating another negative narrative. And we don't want that to happen. So that can happen. But again, you have to be aware and conscious of how tricky the egoic mind is and how those negative thoughts can slip in, okay? Just have to be aware of that. Let's keep going. Once the pain body has taken you over, you want more pain. You become a victim or a perpetrator. You want to inflict pain or you want to suffer pain or both. There isn't really much difference between the two. And that's when I was saying earlier about how you start triggering other people, saying something to somebody else to trigger them and spark them, create an argument to go back and forth. The pain body and egoic mind, it likes pain. It wants to bring somebody into this argument, or even if it's playing the victim mode, it wants to be the victim because it likes pain. That's how it survives. It does not survive in the present moment where peace and being is. It survives in chaos in the future moment. Something being triggered in another person continues to feed the trigger in you. Okay. And we want to alleviate all of that because those triggers is what cause the mental suffering, the negative thoughts, the negative feelings, the negative emotion, so on and so forth. So we want to catch that before it happens. Okay, the pain body, which is the dark shadow cast by the ego, is actually afraid of the light of your consciousness, meaning the awareness. When you are aware of these negative thoughts and this negative feeling, when you're aware of it, you can separate yourself from it, bring in some space and some grace and not be identified with it. You may still have some kind of feeling to it, right? But because you're aware and conscious of it, it won't completely take you over. And then over time, that negative feeling and negative energy will dissipate. Okay. If you don't face it, if you don't bring the light of your consciousness into the pain, you will be forced to relive it again and again. Again, if you're not aware that you're being triggered, if you're not aware of you're just reacting, if you're not aware of these negative thoughts coming into your head, that means you're identified with it. And you can't step outside of it and see it like, okay, I'm really tripping. Let me calm down. If you can't do that, it's going to keep happening over and over because you don't even realize you're doing it. Okay? Let's keep going. The pain body may seem to you like a dangerous monster that you cannot bear to look at, but I assure you that it is an insubstantial phantom that cannot prevail against the power of your presence. So all these triggers and this negativity and these negative thoughts, this, that, and the third, that the ego is casting, that shadow, you can deal with it. A lot of times we don't want to think about negative things and things that have gone through our past, but you have to think about them so you can relieve the suffering. You can detach from them. You got to figure this thing out, kind of go into that inner space and that secret place, so to speak, and kind of deal with it. And it doesn't have to be negative. You don't have to do everything all at once. But if you ignore some of these triggers while you're being triggered, some of these negative thought forms, you just keep ignoring them, they're going to continue to build and build and build. Once you bring awareness to them, consciousness to them, once you realize and figure out, okay, this happened to me in the past, there was nothing I can do about it. I was 9, 10, or 11, whatever the case may be. It's a problem for me. I'm not going to continue to allow this to bother me moving forward in the future. Now you can bring a little bit of awareness to it. Now you can say, okay, I know it was an issue. I know it happened. It is what it is. I'm not going to let it continue to bother me. At least you've acknowledged it and you're bringing some light and consciousness and awareness to it. But until then, you keep ignoring it, it's just going to continue to build and build, and you're going to continue to be reactive in similar situations. And that's not what we want, okay? Okay, so that's pretty much the end of it. Y'all remember, y'all, it's a lot in that book. I'm just got a few key points here and there, but please go get the book, Power Now by Eckhart Tolle. Like I said, buy the physical copy, get it on Audible, Kindle, the whole nine. Powerful book. So a few key points to remember: the greater part of human pain is unnecessary. Remember, that's a great thing because it means we don't have to suffer. A lot of this mental suffering, even the physical suffering, is just mind-made. Nothing is really happening in the moment, and we just keep creating these narratives over and over and over, and it causes suffering. Present moment is all you ever have. Right now is all you have. The suffering, a lot of times coming from the past, it's coming from the future. It's not even relevant. The present moment is what you have, what you're doing here and now. That can alleviate 90% of the problems we have, okay? That'll get rid of all that negative narratives, raise your vibration. Life is wonderful, okay? Make the now the primary focus of your life. If you can make that present moment all the time, nonstop, every single moment of the day, your focal point. And remember, like Eckhart said, going into talking about the future and the past only when necessary for practical reasons. But staying in the present moment, meaning when I'm washing dishes, this is all I'm doing is washing dishes. When I'm cooking dinner, this is all I'm focused on, cooking dinner. When I'm changing diapers, this is all I'm focused on, changing diapers. I'm not thinking about bills. I'm not thinking about work. I'm not thinking about this, that, and the third. I'm just doing whatever I'm doing in the present moment. Or if I'm just sitting, being still, all I'm doing is sitting, being still, okay? Make that the focal point of his life. It's all good. Now, every time I do these videos, I try to make them short, but I had to get through the information. I want y'all to really get it. So I don't know how long this video lasted, but hey, we at the end of it now. So if you made it to the end, I appreciate it, y'all. We're gonna do one more on the power now. Then I think I'm switching book and doing a deep dive on another book. But if you like this video, do the like, subscribe, and share the whole 9 yards. Want to show some financial support? I sure appreciate it. You can do that at buymeacoffee.com/peace and positivity or Cash App $KOS901. Or you can just scan those QR codes for Buy Me a Coffee or Cash App. And again, I'd appreciate it. It'd be great. That's all I got, y'all. I'll check with y'all in the next one. Until then, y'all take care, okay? Peace.